Well, thank you all, Linda and John, as well as Phil, Heather, and Bob for joining us tonight for our Taking the Complicated Out of Gift and Estate Planning. My name is Shannon Vandenberg, and I am the Senior Director of Gift and Estate Planning for the Salvation Army here in Western Michigan, as well as in 6 communities in Northern Indiana. We're part of the Western Michigan, Northern Indiana Division. And I'm joined with my colleagues. I'm going to introduce them, Bob Johnson and Heather Vleetstra. They are both directors of gift and estate planning for our division, and they'll be doing this webinar alongside me this evening. And then we also have our guest speaker, who is Phil Purcell. He is our director of plan giving for the Salvation Army in the Central Territory, which basically covers most of the Midwest. And you're going to be hearing from Phil later. He's going to really help us take the complicated that can often be associated with gift and estate planning, take that out and really narrow in on the important things to be thinking about as we plan for our future, for our families, for our communities, and for our legacy. I also want to let Linda and John know that we are going to be sending out following this webinar, some free resources, and these are really designed to help you as you go through the planning process. There's some guides and a brochure, and we're also going to be giving away tonight this book. It's called The Treasure Principle. We're actually going to reference it later on in the presentation, but by taking that survey, we're going to make sure to give you this book in the resources we'll be mailing you. So just wanted to point that out. And then lastly, I just want to guide you to our website, which is a great resource and tool after this webinar for you to visit as you continue your planning with gift and estate planning. And I just wanted to pull up the screen real quick for you to see. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Can you all see? Could Bob or Heather, can you tell me, can you see the website? Can you just unmute and let me know? Sorry, my screen is sharing.
Yeah,
that's good.
Okay, thank you. So this is our website. It's saplangiving.org. And we just newly redesigned it, and we're really excited to showcase it. Up here, you can sign up for our monthly e-newsletter. You also, over here, you can learn about the different ways to give charitably, what types of gifts and assets you can gift to charity. We even have donor stories and testimonials. We have a gift planning calculator. We even have really engaging articles that come out of Washington on legal matters and financial news. You can learn more about our Hope Brigade Legacy Society. You can contact us here at Who We Are. And then this is where the webinar is going to be recorded. So I wanted to just share our website as another resource for you to visit, following this webinar. So before we get into the program, it's just really important to us that we begin our time in prayer. We are led by the Lord, and we just wanted to take a moment to pause and give him honor. And we also just want to be mindful of what's going on in our world right now, with COVID still a factor, as well as the humanitarian crisis that's going on in Ukraine. So I've asked Bob to lead us in prayer. Bob, would you? Thank you.
You bet. Let's do it. Thank you, Lord, for the 100 and some years that have gone before us. People serving you, following you, coming to know you through the Salvation Army. Thank you that we walk in those footsteps. Thank you, Lord, for the people here joining us tonight. We pray that you guide their footsteps going forward. And we thank you for the people that are serving you in the Ukraine, helping people who are suffering through experiences that most of us have never even seen or could possibly imagine. Thank you for the ways you have placed Salvation Army people over there already. Guide them, we pray, even tonight. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bob. So the first part of our presentation tonight is we wanted to just introduce you, take you a little bit deeper into the Salvation Army's mission and ministry. And I wanted us just to think, you don't have to, unmute or anything like that, but just think for a moment. When you think of the Salvation Army, what is maybe the first thing that comes to your mind? And I'm just going to share a couple things that I think Bob, Heather, Phil, and I hear quite often from donors. One of the first things I hear is, "Oh, I know you guys. You're the people that ring the bells at Christmas." And yes, absolutely. Our red kettles are iconic with Christmas, and they help a lot of people with the money that we collect. Other people, they know us for our thrift stores. They go there themselves. They've gotten great deals there. They go and donate items themselves. So that's another way in which people think of the Salvation Army. And then, of course, people know us for doing good. I'll hear that a lot. You guys do great things, and that is so important. All those things do make up the Salvation Army. But what is behind all of that, right? The good, the ministry, the missions, the programs that you are supporting. And that's what we wanted to showcase in this next section, is a couple ministries of the Salvation Army that maybe aren't top of mind, but we wanted to bring to light today. And then what we're going to do is connect 3 unique gift opportunities, charitable gift opportunities, to those programs, to show you how those giving opportunities make those programs possible. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Heather. She's going to start off by talking more with us about our Christmas outreach program. Heather?
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah, Shannon just showed us the little bell. I'm pretty sure probably most, if not everyone on this call, is familiar with the bells. I'm sure you have run into someone ringing a bell going into a store around Christmas time. The Salvation Army's probably most well-known program in the US is the bell ringing, or the Christmas outreach program. And regardless of where you live, we have a Salvation Army location that covers just about every zip code in the US. So some of the programs that the Christmas outreach, that money that you put in the kettles, what that goes to support is things like food, clothing, and toys, and making sure that those in need don't have to choose between feeding their family and having a Christmas present for their child on Christmas morning. So this past Christmas season, just in our division, we had 12,000 families served. That's about 50,000 individuals in 26 outreach centers across the US. So that is what our donors, probably many of you have done, is you provided food and clothing and shelter and just so many basic needs during Christmas time. So with that being said, Bob is going to share a little bit about another very important program that really probably resonates right now with everything in the Ukraine going on, and that is our disaster services. Bob?
Yeah, thanks, Heather. Yeah, the emergency disaster services are a very different program from the Christmas program. When I started with the Salvation Army some time ago, I looked into this just a little bit, started reading some cursory information. I was amazed that 20 years ago at Ground Zero, Salvation Army was one of the first responders there, and they served 3.2 million meals. 3.2 million is a mind-boggling number of meals to serve. Yet that's what we keep doing, place after place after place, all across the country and internationally. We have a truck in Grand Rapids ready to roll at about an hour's notice to be ready to serve any disaster in this area. And like has been mentioned, in the Ukraine, we have 9 local corps in the Ukraine. All of them are working overtime right now, trying to meet a lot of human needs. So back in to our local community, in our division this past year, we had about 2,300 meals served, 6,900 hot drinks, 3,600 snacks. I think even bigger than that, the 6,000 food boxes at local food pantries. Somewhat COVID related, somewhat job loss related, 6,000 food boxes. How many meals is that? Who knows, 20,000? Emergency disaster services is a big program, and we got to make sure we keep it moving. Now, I guess we're going back to Heather. Talk about the substance abuse programs.
Thanks, Bob. Another thing that probably is of interest to most of us at this time is the adult rehabilitation centers. With the pandemic going on, I'm sure many of you know someone that's probably struggled with either alcohol abuse or drug addiction, or just some issues that have been really prevalent, especially in the past couple of years. So the adult rehabilitation centers, or ARC for short, basically they're designed to help those who are battling with drug and alcohol addiction. And 65 people every day in the US are hospitalized because of substance abuse issues. And about 150,000 people, as you can see on the slide, 150,000 benefactors come through our program each year in these ARCs. And there's a 6-month program and a year program. So this isn't a just quick out the door you go. This is something where a staff member comes alongside these folks, and really they work with a team of people to help get them back into society, to rebuild social skills, regain health, stability. Many of them restore their family. We've seen a really huge success. So, you know, again, without the donations coming in, we couldn't do any of this. Traditional rehab centers are thousands of dollars. The Salvation Army is free. We do not charge anybody for the services. And in 2021, we had 34 men and women graduate. And that means they found freedom from their addiction. And many of them actually were able to, get a job and be part of their family again. So with that being said, we'd like to share Melvin's story, and Shannon has a video for you. So.
Okay, let me share that now. Can everybody hear? Could someone unmute and let me know?
Got it. You're
Great,
good.
thank you.
A few weeks before I had came through the Salvation Army, me and my mom was riding, and she just happened to say, boy, what am I gonna put in your obituary? And that hit me, like, what is she gonna put in there? Because I have never done nothing my whole life. My journey started off in Muskegon, Michigan. Come from a great home, you know. My father was always there with me. My mother, like I said, I have one son, Javante McDowell, right? I started off at a very young age, you know, using drugs. Started off smoking weed real young, about like 8 or 9 years old. I started selling drugs at like 11, 12. Well, my whole life, that's all I ever did, was sold drugs and used drugs. My vision of a man wasn't going to no work or none of that. Not paying no bills, and it was just running the streets, house to house, 2 or 3 girls, having them take care of you. Like it went from drinking to smoking weed, from smoking weed to tooting cocaine, from tooting cocaine to smoking it. And from the cocaine, I started drinking cough syrup and Vicodin. And I was selling heroin, and that's when I started doing heroin too. Oh, it was fun at first. That was the life for me. You know, I really thought I was gonna sell drugs my whole life. But when I was getting high, I used to, like I said, I always hung around older guys. And the guys that I was hanging with had been getting high their whole life. You know, they was like almost 60 years old and still was getting high. And I used to look at them and be like, man, this can't be my life. I can't die getting high. Like I said, I think I've been to the Salvation Army. I mean, been in treatment over 25 times. Detox is like you having a flu and someone's beating you. They say the older you get, the worse it gets. I was just so weak, and that's when I realized how drugs, how heroin, it had took my soul. I was so determined this time because I was just so tired of going through that. And I was just so tired of living like that. So all I did was I laid in my bed and just prayed. All I just kept asking God was to give me the strength, the will, the determination to get through this. My son was about to graduate, and my dad was sick, and something told me he wasn't gonna be around. I was just determined to get through this because I ain't want my son to graduate, and I was still out there using drugs, and I ain't want my dad to die and see me still in my addiction. And when I got here, that's when I really surrendered. I got to see my son walk across the stage. I was clean. I was like a few months clean. About my third month in, my dad died. But the best thing about it, he got to see me clean. He didn't die while I was in my active addiction. I'm doing what my dad always wanted me to do, be a man. He knew the road I was going down. He knew where it was going to take me. When they got to talking about the program, I was like, boom, the light went off like, this is what I need. It's the best thing ever happened to me. If I can do it, anybody can do it. This program taught me a lot, man, about structure and work ethics, man. It gave me hope, man. When I was in that bed praying all the time, once I got through that detox, that's when I knew God was with me. Because I don't see how I got through it. I never thought that I would be doing that like I'm doing now, just up until 3.5 years ago that I stopped, you know. I'll be 45 July 13th. When I walked through these doors, I wasn't expecting what had happened in my life these last 3 years. This place saved my life.
Quite inspiring. Every time I watch that video, and I've seen it a few times, it just brings chills, and it just instills in me, you know, the passion for the work that we do here at the Salvation Army at every level. We're just so honored to be able to provide these types of programs and services that are quite life-changing for individuals just like Melvin. And I hope you enjoyed his story. What a remarkable story. You know, these are just the 3 that we covered tonight. These are just 3 programs of many. There are lots of different ways in which the Salvation Army is serving those in need. And if you are interested in learning more about the other opportunities, you can visit our website. It's www.sawmni.org. And we have all of our services listed there. So the next portion, you know, we wanted to start by showing you the impact of your gifts and how they're making a difference. And this is a gift and an estate planning webinar. So we wanted to talk on some various types of gifts that you can do now, right now, that are having great impacts across our division and across the Salvation Army. And we wanted to just go into not great depth on these various types of gifts, but we wanted to introduce you to them. And if after this webinar, you would like more information or to go into further detail, Bob, Heather, or myself would be honored to meet with you, speak with you over the phone, give you more information. But for now, we're just going to touch on 3. And the first one we're going to start with is a very popular one that's growing. They are called donor advised fund grants. And I'm going to turn it over now to Heather, and she's going to share a little bit more with you on this type of plan gift. Heather?
As Shannon said, the Donor Advice Fund Grant, or also known as a DAF, is a very popular way to support charities. And a DAF is a holding account, basically. It's established at a public charity, often managed by a local community foundation, or there are some financial firms that are very popular like Schwab and Fidelity. So basically what you do is to make a DAF donation. It's a charitable contribution that you make to a DAF, and you, the donor, benefit from not only an immediate tax deduction, but you can also recommend grants to your favorite charities. So DAFs, like Shannon said, are very popular because they're a great way to help nonprofits like ours to fulfill our mission. And you can add to the fund at any time, and you can make as many grants and as often as you wish. In 2021 alone, our organization received 240 DAF grants. That's a little over $406,000. But more importantly, not just the dollar amount, what that means is these DAF dollars have provided 81,000 home cooked meals at Christmas time, and many other things, but that is what those dollars are doing. So and I'm going to turn over to Bob. He's going to talk about another really easy, uncomplicated gift, and that is a QCD, or Qualified Charitable Distribution. Bob?
Yeah, actually even more popular are the IRA rollover gifts, what we've often called IRA rollover gifts, technically QCD, Qualified Charitable Distribution. And they're more popular because a lot of us have an IRA. And if you have one, and if you happen to be over the age of 70 and a half, you qualify to make these gifts directly from your IRA. And of course, if you're 72 or over, then you're actually required to take a distribution. And because you did not pay tax on that money when you put it in, you will pay tax on that money when you take it out. So therefore, if you want to avoid the tax, a great way to do it is with this rollover gift. And remember that with the new higher standard deduction on our income taxes, a lot of us are using that. I know I did this year. Then you don't actually need all the tax deductible receipts from all the individual gifts that you have made to charity. That's why it may be smarter to make your gift directly from your IRA and never pay the tax in the first place. Extremely popular with us this year, had about 700 of these gifts come into our division, $700,000. If again, to equate that to hot meals served, we're in the 150,000 meals served from that kind of money. IRA rollovers are fantastic, easy to do gifts. You contact your administrator, tell them what charity you want to send a portion of it to, done deal. Up to $100,000 a year. And the last one we want to mention are stock gifts. Who could ever imagine the Dow being as high as it is today? A lot of us have stock, individual stocks probably, that have appreciated hugely. And again, if you sell those stocks, the government wants their share, you're going to pay capital gains tax. Can't avoid it. So a way to make an impact gift, perhaps you bought a stock at $10, now it's worth $20, you can make that gift to the Salvation Army as a $20 gift. So it's a smaller gift in the impact of your pocketbook, bigger gift, impact of Salvation Army. You can do this by simply calling your broker, asking your broker to call our broker, or even if you do it electronically like I do with a Vanguard account, even Vanguard has a place to click on to automatically send to charity. It's actually pretty easy. And the stock gifts last year, we had something like $80,000 come in the stock gifts. So if you want to bring that back to Melvin's story, that 80 grand would cover about 4 people like Melvin going all the way through our ARC substance abuse training. Stock gifts, appreciated stock gifts are fantastic. Hey, I'm going to turn it back now to Shannon, and I think she's going to introduce Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So we just wanted to feature those 3 giving opportunities that you can do right now. And again, if you are interested in learning more, I know we went through that process, but quickly, but we have information that we can send you as well if at any time you're interested in making a gift like that or just learning more. So we now want to transfer, or transition to our next portion of the webinar, which is featuring our guest speaker, which is Phil Purcell. And just a little background on Phil. Phil has been our Director of Planned Giving for the Salvation Army in the Central Territory since 2020. He has a 30+ year career in both fundraising. He's a fundraiser as well as an attorney. He's also an educator and has done that for over 30 years. So Phil comes to us with a lot of knowledge and expertise, and we're just excited to hear more from Phil. So at this time, Phil, the camera is yours.
Yes, well, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be with you and everyone here today. I want to talk a bit with you about legacy planning in very simple terms, very easy terms that make legacy planning your estate, planning your affairs, putting your affairs in order in hopefully commonsensical ways. And again, if you have any questions, you can ask now or ask Shannon, Heather, or Bob later, and they can certainly help follow up any questions you have about what I'm going to talk about. I want to begin by reviewing the legacy planning process. It's very important to kind of have a picture of where you're going. You know, when you go on vacation and travel, well, some people just get in the car and go. They don't know where they're going, and maybe that is enjoyable, but not as productive as a trip. It's kind of like that with planning your affairs. It's good to have a vision of what you want to do, get a good roadmap for doing it, and then that makes the end result even better. And you can rest assured that your affairs are in order for yourself, your loved ones, and maybe charitable organizations like the Salvation Army that you want to help. So let's quickly go through and understand this legacy planning process. There are a lot of good reasons to plan, and Shannon has alluded to a lot of these, such as through a planning process, you can do the best job possible to assure that your personal needs are accounted for, as well as the needs of loved ones. And some of us have particular loved ones that we worry a great deal about and might need some long-term assistance, but we may have minor children or other even friends who we want to assist one way or the other over time or ultimately from our estate. Also, through planning, we can save costs and taxes in the long run. It's amazing that through good advice from advisors and good planning, you can save your long run costs and reduce taxes. And finally, through legacy planning, you can maybe feel comfortable and confident that you can help charitable organizations too, your church or important organizations such as the Salvation Army. So there are a lot of very good reasons to plan. Unfortunately, a lot of people procrastinate. Data shows that under half of the adult population has an estate plan at all. And it's unfortunate because many people will spend more money going out to eat in a month or two than they will actually on what it might take to put together a good plan for the future. So it's worth doing. It's important to do. And you'll feel better and rest easier knowing that your affairs are in order. So those are the reasons. Now let's go through the steps. What I like to do is you have to take account of things before you plan with or for those things. So in taking account, first step is inventorying your assets. What do you own? What type of assets do you have? Real estate, intangible property like stocks and bonds and insurance, tangible property like your house, your car, maybe collections, heirlooms. And where are these located? You got to make note of that. You know, these kinds of factors that I'm talking about are the very kinds of information that a lawyer or a financial planner will need from you to help advise you on how best to plan your estate. So not only what types of assets do you own and where are they, and they might, by the way, be in other states. You know, you might inherit assets in another state or own land somewhere else, for example. Also, making clear who owns each and what's the title. Sometimes we inherit things with siblings. We co-own other assets with our spouse, and so forth. So making very clear note of ownership and title. And oh, by the way, Shannon, Bob, and Heather have resource materials, booklets that can help you inventory and write these things down so they're helpful for you and for your advisors. So important resources are available to help step you through these processes. So in addition to who owns these assets and who are they titled to, what are their current value, approximate value of these things? Again, this is very helpful for advisors who might want to counsel you on how to plan around taxes or how to dispose of certain assets at the least tax cost. So both the current value and what is called cost basis, that is, what did you pay for it? Now, you might not remember what you paid for a lot of things, but you might have some records. And so I know your advisors might ask you what you originally paid. The reason they're asking that is the difference between cost basis and current value is growth or capital gain, and that can result in taxes or capital gains taxes when you sell those assets. So it could help an advisor to learn what are the best types of advice to give you. So anyway, inventorying your assets and information about your assets using the booklet or materials that Shannon, Bob, and Heather can share. It's a good place to start. The other kind of inventory that you need to establish is your goals, your personal feelings about what you want to do with your assets. It's one thing to know what you have. The other question is, what am I going to do with these stuff? And so when we think about our goals, usually first and foremost, we think about ourselves and our family and loved ones, caring for them in the best way possible. And so, and some of our families sometimes needs more assistance than others. So there are, for example, certain lawyers called elder law specialists who help people who are disabled or elderly plan, especially with regard to Medicare and Medicaid laws. So the point is that, the priority of your goals around family need to be noted. You need to think carefully about those goals and let your advisors know. In addition, your financial legacy, and that is using that inventory of assets that we created in step one. How can we grow those assets? How do we use those assets? And then how do we plan to distribute those assets down the road, either over time while we're alive or through our planning at death to help save loved ones. And the third point, help important charitable causes that are near and dear to our heart. Many people are very passionate about their faith, their church, and the work of the Salvation Army. And so your philanthropic legacy is something to take account of and to plan into your affairs, because what you might find out is that you have, say, enough ability to help your loved ones, and there might be something more that can help important charitable causes that are dear to your heart, such as the Salvation Army. The third step in the process is to seek good counsel. Find people who can give you good advice. For example, lawyers, attorneys, they help draft the legal documents such as a will, a power of attorney, other documents, a living will, or a trust, if a trust is deemed necessary. And they'll advise you on which of these documents you might need and can help draft them for you. An accountant, on the other hand, is someone who can help you with your tax planning, both your current income taxes, projected future taxes, and so forth. So an accountant is very helpful from a tax planning standpoint. Of course, a financial advisor is there to be of assistance with how your investments and insurance and other financial affairs are organized. Are you properly allocated in your assets for both short and long-term needs that you, your spouse, or other loved ones may have? So a financial advisor is very important, works alongside the accountant to line up your financial affairs. And finally, Shannon, Bob, and Heather can provide gift planning counsel for you. That is, they can give you good ideas of ways to use your assets to help plan gifts. And we're going to be talking in a few minutes about some more ideas in addition to the ones that have already been shared to you by Heather and Bob. So the plan giving staff here at the Salvation Army are there to assist you as well. So pick those advisors, find good ones. And if you need help finding advisors, Shannon, Bob, and Heather can give you some direction on that. They can give you some leads on good accountants, lawyers, or financial investment advisors. They might give you a couple of choices and you make the final decision, but they can give you good advice on maybe people if you can't find one yourself. So the fourth step is actually, after you meet with those advisors, review their recommendations. What legal documents are recommended for you? A will, again, a trust, power of attorney? What kind of documentation is needed to implement your goals? What kind of tax plan do you have? Both taxes now and the working, say if you're in your working years, as well as tax issues that might arise later, especially maybe around retirement plans and drawing money from retirement plans. And your investment plan, both now in the short run and in the long run, to assure you have an adequate nest egg available for yourself down the road, in addition to a pension, IRAs, or other accounts to help you in retirement years. And then finally, working with Shannon, Bob, or Heather, a philanthropic plan. You know, what kind of gift arrangements might be suitable for you, both for current gifts that might help the Salvation Army now, or longer term, even from your estate when that time comes. So the important thing is to get these recommendations and think seriously about them. But perhaps the most important step of all is to actually implement a plan. So many people, they think about it, they create these lists or inventories, they even talk to advisors, but they never pull the trigger and actually do something. And that's unfortunate, because you have to implement the plan. You have to sign the legal documents. Of course, we're always filing our taxes, but do whatever tax planning your accountant might advise, and engage in investments that make sense for you in the short and long run. So if you have questions or doubts about any of these recommendations, you can always ask for second opinions. And if you're ever nervous about what a particular advisor might cost, like a lawyer or so forth, you can certainly and should ask them to disclose their fees before they charge you anything. So that's important for you to be clear. But I guess my advice to you would be to go into this planning realizing that it may cost you some money. It'll probably cost much less than you're afraid it's going to cost. And believe me, the money is an investment. It's an investment in your future. It's an investment for peace of mind. It's an investment for your family and putting your affairs in order. And it's an investment to see what kinds of philanthropic passions you can fulfill through your planning. So don't procrastinate to the point of failing to implement. And then once a plan is implemented, you got to understand that you might have to pay attention to it from time to time. Just like you have to change the oil in your car and pay attention to its needs, and your house, changing your furnace filter, whatever it is. With your estate plan, you got to address changes as well, because you know what? As we grow older, everything can change. The laws can change. There are laws being considered right now that might affect some of many people's planning. Your needs change. People might become ill. Loved ones might develop special needs that you have to attend to. So consequently, your priorities can change, especially as you phase out of the working years and into retirement years. Your priorities can change in terms of what you want your assets and your what you own to do for you, both short and long term. And finally, your assets and values can change in terms of what you own. And in America, of course, a lot of assets do go up in value. Stocks and real estate might increase in value, and those changes in value can affect how you allocate them to yourself, your needs, and or charitable causes that interest you. And your philanthropic goals can change. You might want to be able to plan more of a gift to your church, the Salvation Army, or other charities that interest you. So your goals, and you might learn about programs like you heard about today that the Salvation Army are actually doing. And some of those might be new to you, and you might decide, oh, that's something I would like to consider supporting. So your philanthropic goals can change as you learn more about programs and services. So now let's talk about some ideas about legacy planning with philanthropy, some really basic ideas that you might find very valuable. One thing I do want to point out that, of course, a lot of people like to make cash gifts either by check or personal delivery. There were a couple of rules around in 2021 that have changed for 2022. Now, these will be deductions and that are available for your taxes that are filed this year from last year's gifts. But I'm sharing this slide because these rules have changed. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. So we had a universal deduction last year that has expired for cash gifts of $300 for an individual person, $600 for a married couple. And we had a 100% available income tax deduction for 2021 for cash gifts. This is 100% of your adjusted gross income. So if you filed an extension and you still haven't filed your income tax return, these are advantages that if you made these kinds of cash gifts last year, you can take advantage of. But unfortunately, these have expired and they will not be available for this year. Some other current use gifts. Well, Bob has already talked about stock gifts and the value of stock gifts, but other kinds of assets may be considered for gifts as well. Land, equipment. If you own a business, your privately held stock, we can talk to you. Shannon, Bob, and Heather are happy to talk to you about any assets and their value and potentiality of a gift. The IRA charitable rollover, Bob talked to you about the importance and ease of that. It's also called the qualified charitable distribution. Heather shared with you about donor advised funds. And then another new idea that wasn't shared are endowments. The Salvation Army does set up perpetual support endowments that can support your hometown or specific programs of the Salvation Army. It's a perpetual way to provide ongoing support into the future for the needs and programs of the Salvation Army. Three other charity plans that I think are very valuable to consider are bequests in a will or trust, beneficiary designations of retirement plan, and life insurance. Wills and trusts are very, very popular. You know, it's a basic estate planning document for you to have a will or a trust. These are ways for you to discern and decide how you may decide how assets are used while you're alive, but more importantly, how they're to be distributed at your passing. Wills and trusts are revocable. You can change them at any time. And any designations for charity can be done on a percentage basis. So you can leave X% for your family or kids and Y% to a charity such as Salvation Army, so that they get the relative share of what you own, but we don't know what your assets value will be when that time comes. So stating it as a percentage doesn't lock it in to a specific value that's rigid, but rather it will take account of change over time in that value. So bequest and will or trust, very popular. Shannon, Bob, and Heather can provide you sample bequest language that you can look at, share with your lawyer. That's a guidepost for how to include a gift to charity in the Salvation Army in your will. A beneficiary designation of an IRA is also a very popular technique. It's revocable, can be changed at any time. Very easy to do by either filling out a form, usually online. And like the will bequest, you can do it for a percentage. A percentage of the retirement plan can go to your family and another percentage to charities such as Salvation Army. And again, it's the kind of asset that can grow in value. You don't know what it's going to be worth when that time comes. So a percentage is a good way to designate. From a tax standpoint, it's very tax wise to leave a gift from a retirement plan, because if your family or kids inherit it, they will owe income tax on it as they draw the money out of the inherited plan. And by the way, the law changed. And if one of your children inherit an IRA, they have to withdraw all the money within 10 years. So it might be a tax-wise way to leave a gift to charity through a retirement plan and leave other assets to the kids, assets that'll get a step up in basis when they inherit. But the IRA is a wonderful way to designate a gift to the Salvation Army at your passing. And finally, life insurance. You might have life insurance that you no longer need anymore. We often buy life insurance to care for our young children. And hey, guess what? Sometimes they grow up and become economically self-sufficient. And maybe you don't need all that life insurance like you did before. But one option for that life insurance then is to designate the Salvation Army as either the beneficiary and the owner as well. If premiums need to be paid, you can make tax-deductible gifts to cover those premiums or not. But the point is that you could look to life insurance as a planning opportunity. I, again, would encourage you to talk to Shannon, Bob, or Heather about if you have a life insurance policy, about whether it'd be a potential of a good gift to the Army. A final set of helpful charity plans involve income that are paid to you or loved ones for the rest of your or their lives. A charitable gift annuity pays a fixed income. It doesn't go up or down with the market. It's a fixed payment income, and it could start immediately. A deferred annuity is, again, a fixed payment income, but doesn't begin until sometime in the future. Let's say you have children who are in their 30s or some age, and you do a deferred annuity and it doesn't begin until they're in their 50s, maybe even 60s, when they're retired and they need more income. And then charitable remainder trusts are life income plans that will be invested in the market and grow with the market over time, so that your income from the trust goes up as the stock market values go up. Again, our three experts, Shannon, Bob, and Heather, can talk to you about any of these plans. They can give you sample illustrations of how they work, the tax savings, the tax deductions, the potential income payments out of them. All of them very popular and ones that you might want to consider as part of your plan. So let me pause there, Shannon, see, we're going to have questions at the end. Is that right? So I'll just move past this and we're going to do questions at the end. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. We hope this is helpful. And again, contact our Plan Giving staff if you have any questions at all.
Thank you, Phil. Excuse me. Like Phil said, we are going to be doing questions and answers at the end of the webinar in just a few minutes. So if you do have a question, there is the chat feature at the bottom of the ribbon. If you want to post your question in there, and then we'll ask Phil at the end. But one of the last things we wanted to do was show a story, share one more video of one of our donors who actually did one of these gifts that Phil was just talking about. They made the Salvation Army a beneficiary of their IRA. And we sat down with them just recently and asked them to share with you and with others how they did it, what the process was, and what motivated them. And so we wanted to just take a moment now for you to hear their story and their journey. So I'm going to share the screen. And if someone could unmute and just let me know if they can hear it once it starts. Oh. 1 second. Just one moment. Okay, can you hear it okay?
Yeah, got it.
When I
It's
think
good.
about giving, and in particular when I think about giving to the Salvation Army or other organizations that really meet people at the point of need, I'm reminded of Matthew 25 when God is separating the sheep and the goats, and the whole thought that as we minister to someone who's hungry, someone who needs clothing, someone who needs shelter, we see that person, but in fact, perhaps, we're really ministering to Christ himself.
Well, stewardship, I think, didn't come to me right away. My parents were not Christians, and so the whole concept of weekly or monthly giving wasn't part of my life. They gave money, but it wasn't a structured thing. And then when I met Tom and we married, we did talk about that and said, you know, we are going to give our tithe, our 10%, before we do anything else. And it was a miracle from God because it always worked out.
You know, I was fortunate to serve in the Air Force for 40 years, and one of the core values of the Air Force is service above self. And that really resonated with me, and it resonated with us as a family. I really think that's a great way to live your life, and when you just seek to serve others and to do it sacrificially. And so that has really informed our giving along the way as well. Well, you know, for years we gave to Salvation Army primarily when there'd be a natural disaster somewhere in our country, and there'd be a lot of public attention given to that. We always wanted to contribute to that. As the years went by, we really decided that we should be doing that monthly, and so we built Salvation Army into our monthly giving budget. And then once we retired, and I had watched Salvation Army and many local community organizations really reach out to the families and the soldiers that I had the privilege of leading, and I saw what an impact they made. We decided that we needed to be more involved and have a greater role in that.
We had some representatives come and talk with us, and you know, that was the first time that I really went, oh, well, it's not just Red Kettles, it's a lot more than that. They help people with food and with Christmas and with, you know, all kinds of things. And so at that point, we expanded it out into a legacy basis.
Well, as we, you know, do estate planning, we wanted to make sure we found a healthy balance between what we might leave to our heirs and what we might leave to ministries that we care about. And we did that through a trust at one point, but as time goes on, you develop an interest in other ministries. You see other ministries that are making a difference in your own community, and where a trust is difficult to change. It's expensive, it's complicated. Changing the beneficiaries in an IRA, it doesn't cost a thing. It really is as simple if you happen to manage your IRAs through on the computer. It's as simple as logging in and changing the percentages in there and clicking OK, and it's done. It doesn't cost a penny. You have to know how to do that, but if you have somebody managing your finances, they can do that too. It's very simple, very quick, and very easy. I think anybody that is interested in using the blessings God has showered them with wisely, I would really recommend they read a little book called The Treasure Principle. It's a very short book, it's a wonderful read, and it really was life-changing for us. That it really motivated us, encouraged us to really think very thoughtfully about our giving and how we can impact people right now, today, as well as for many, many years to come. God is really looking at our hearts, and He's looking at our willingness to serve Him by serving others. And I think Salvation Army does that wonderfully. So that is just so important to us as we give to a ministry.
God doesn't prosper us to raise our level of living, but to raise our level of giving.
Such an inspiring couple. I had the opportunity to walk alongside them as they went through the journey of doing a legacy gift with the Salvation Army, and just can't say enough great things about Tom and Chris. They really love the Lord. As you can see, their faith really is a motivator behind all of their charitable giving to not just Salvation Army, but to many organizations they care about. And one of the books they referenced in the video is the book that I talked about early on, The Treasure Principle. This is a great read. It's a short one, as you can see, but I highly recommend, we're going to be sending this out to everyone on the webinar. And I really encourage you, it does provide some great information, but also it's faith-based and really provides biblical guidance on what God calls us to do when it comes to the resources that he has bestowed upon us to invest in his kingdom. So I just wanted to mention that. And one more thing, if you don't mind, we're getting to the end of our webinar and we're going to open it up for questions, but Heather has posted in the chat a link to the survey. And if in the next few minutes or even after the webinar, if you can click on that link and just complete the survey, it will help us, to change things for next time, but also to be able to follow up with you as well to see if there's anything that we can be of assistance with.